After resting momentarily, Heisuke and I regathered ourselves and embarked up the trail to an elevated scenic cliff, from which all of Sendai could be seen. Sunlight sparkled amidst a clutter of clouds. How's your body feeling, Heisuke?
これくらいなら平気だよ。心配してくれてありがとな。
I see. Part of me suspected that Heisuke was only telling me so in hopes that I wouldn't press him more. However, Heisuke genuinely seemed to be in positive spirits, and his complexion was healthy. He directed his gaze towards the city, which had been eerily quiet from our vantage point.
あれが仙台の町だろう。お天道様が登ってるのに、ずいぶんひっそりしてるよな。
As Heisuke noted, it was troubling to focus on how silent it felt from the city's outskirts, especially in the middle of broad daylight. Not a peep escaped the city, and through squinted eyes, I couldn't make out a single person walking anywhere near the city's interwoven streets. I wonder if people've locked themselves up in their houses to hide from the Furies, or if... No, you don't think all of the people down there might have become...
お前はもう少し算術を学んだ方がよかろうな。いくらなんでもこの短い期間に町の人間すべてを羅刹に変えることなどできまい。
Kazuma!
随分とのんきな行軍だったな。てっきりおじけづいて逃げ出したものと思っていたぞ。
ここまで来て逃げるわけねえだろ。お前こそまだこんなところにいたのかよ。いつもあれだけでかい口叩いてるからとっくに羅刹を全滅させちまったんだと思ったのに。
天霧に命じて騒動を起こさせた隙に城に侵入すると言ったはずだ。もしやと思うが貴様の頭は昨日した話すら覚えておられぬほど出来が悪いのか。
なんだとてめえ。
Heisuke, calm down! You too, Kazuma! Please, everyone, calm your tempers. This is no time for us to be bickering. All of us are here for the same reasons right now. At this point, we're practically allies.
仲間だと笑わせるな。貴様らごときが戦力になると思うのか。特にそちらの子犬。以前江戸で辻斬りを働くまがい者どもを切るのをためらっていたではないか。そんな甘い考えの持ち主にかつての同志を切ることなどできるのか。
それは。
Kazuma's comment was aimed at Heisuke where it hurt, rendering him silent for a moment.
確かにあの時は覚悟が決まってなかったけど、それでも三男さんは新選組総長で羅刹隊をまとめてた人だから、その始末をつけるのはきっと俺たちじゃなきゃいけねえんだ。
Kazuma stared intently at Heisuke for a brief moment, inspecting him with a look of scrutiny. Soon his expression relaxed.
相変わらず時代錯誤な連中だ。気合だけで勝利できる相手ではあるまい。
Great.
そりゃ俺だって分かってるけど。
He's aware!
まあ貴様が持ち合わせているのは気合以外にないだろうからな。
なんだと、てめえこそ達者なのは剣の腕だけじゃねえか。
Heisuke, stop being so sensitive!
ああ、そうだな。こんな人望なさそうなやつの言葉を本気にする必要なんてどこにもねえもんな。
なんだと貴様。
keeping them from arguing potentially oh god. Yeah, it is potentially, isn't it? Oh, fuck words. Keeping them from arguing potentially was becoming a draining task, but...
本当のことじゃねえか。お前みてえに性根が腐ったやつが他人に尊敬されるわけねえだろ。
ざれ言は大概にしておけ。一族のもので、この俺を敬わぬ者など一人とておらぬ。
本当か？あの天霧ってやつに危険な役目を押し付けて自分だけ楽してやがるじゃねえか。
Their banter was immature at best. They traded verbal blows with the wit and candor of children. Alright, I didn't expect this kind of banter to come between Heisuke and Kazuma. What the fuck? All I could do was watch, imagining the most fitting word to describe their irritating relationship. Was the word frenemy? It sounded so absurd as it came to mind, and yet it was so perfect. So perfect, my voice squeaked with laughter.
あ、おい、千鶴、何笑ってるんだよ。
Gomen, I really didn't mean to laugh. Both of you were becoming so frustrated trading insults back and forth that it looked so funny.
あってなどおらぬ。
All of it was so hilarious to me that I could no longer hold it in, and suddenly I burst into hearty laughter.
おい、何笑ってんだよ。
Heisuke eked a smile, forcing himself not to laugh.
意味がわからぬ。なぜ貴様まで一緒に笑っているのだ。
いや、俺にもわかんねえって。ただなんつうか、その。くそ、ダメだ。こらえきれねえ。
物を言う気が失せた。貴様はそのまま笑い死ぬがいい。
I can't stop laughing now either. Oh god, it's contagious. For so long, Kazuma was our most hated adversary. As the laughter of a demon clan, he'd opposed Shinsengumi on numerous occasions, even going so far as to slaughter some of our closest allies. Yet here we were, exchanging jokes at one another's expense. Kazuma, who normally created obstacles for us at every conceivable turn, was now aiding us in our quest to defeat Sun on Sun. Such a peculiar and unexpected position to be in.
とりあえず仙台に着いたわけだし、まずは城を目指すとするか。
Good, the laughing fit is over.
貴様のことなどどうでもいいが、その娘は死なせるなよ。貴重な女鬼だからな。
And he's back to normal.
うるせえよ。死なせるわけねえじゃねえか。ほら行くぞ、千鶴。こんな奴に構うのは時間がもったいねえ。
I skipped after Heisuke, and I couldn't help my lips from curling into a tight smile. At last, we had reached our destination, and it was time for us to confront Sun and Sun once and for all. Despite my bitter instincts, I had hoped that we could somehow reach a non-violent resolution. A naive wish, but my one wish nonetheless. If there were no other options, if it truly came down to a battle of life or death, then battle we must. I embraced this hopeful sentiment, keeping my head pointed straight ahead of me as we descended down the mountain path. Oh! Alright, chapter 4 it is. Jesus. Alright. Instantly with the creepy music that I hate. Our arrival in Sendai was greeted with a foreboding silence, the sound of wind hissing into empty corners. The city was unusually calm, distinctly lacking any sign of townspeople or activity for miles. It was, by all normal accounts, a perfectly bright and unassuming afternoon. One could hear a pin drop in the distance, as the only other sound was the rattle of wind against the roads. This served to our advantage, allowing us to roam with no immediate fear of detection. It gave pause to think that the city was renowned for being the Tohoku region's most populated area. And yet, nightfall was doubtedly disconcerting, as the darkness only amplified how unsettling the dead silence was. No trace of life caught our attention, not a single voice nor a single light flickering in the lined arrangement of houses adjacent to the street. It disturbed me to think that the city owed its lifelessness to Sanan-san and his vile band of furies. Sure is quiet.
ああ、まさか町の人間が全員殺されちまったわけじゃねえだろうけど。
Sanan-san envisioned a fury kingdom, one that required the sacrifice of hundreds of innocent people. Were we seeing the fruits of his vision firsthand? We stumbled onto the main road, and the only sounds we heard were the distant clap of our echoing footsteps. If I hadn't known any better, I would have assumed that every single resident in this city had died. Just then, I felt a spooky presence behind me, as if an apparition brushed against the back of my knees. The feeling of being watched was palpable, and suddenly my feet felt rooted to the ground. It was a fear with which I had become all too familiar. Heisuke became privy on my nervous energy. Reflexively, he grabbed a hold of his sword.
Chizuru! 俺の後ろに隠れろ!
Heisuke screamed alarmed me, and I heard the metallic screech of his sword leaving its scabbard. Two pairs of voracious red eyes spotted us, glaring at us from across a dimly lit pathway. The fuck did you come from? There was nowhere to turn, and the Furies zealously reached for their swords before lunging at us.
やるわけねえだろ、バカが!
Heisuke swatted them back coolly, narrowly avoiding their aggressive approaches with well-timed footwork. After ducking to dodge an incoming strike, Heisuke whipped his sword around and sliced its sharp edge across the chest of his unguarded opponent. Heisuke, no! Entering a fury and opening its flesh will only attract more furies with the scent of its blood. Heisuke suddenly paused, stepping backwards. His eyes darted behind him, seeking an opportunity to run.
Chizuru! こっちだ!
Heisuke grabbed my wrist and whisked me away. Spilling blood was the surest way to dry on the unstoppable ire of the Furies lurking within the shadows. Heisuke led me into a tight, narrow alleyway, and we shimmied to the other side, passing through what looked like an abandoned home in our escape. Heisuke and I hid quietly in areas such as these, desperately holding our breaths to avoid detection.
あいつら行ったか。
I think so.
天霧が敵を引きつけるため騒ぎを起こすのは今日の夜ってことになってたはずだよな。
According to Kazuma, yes. I think we've still got some time before the moon reaches its zenith. Sendai Castle was some distance away, and I wanted to err on the side of caution. As I played the scenario out in my head, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached round 5. Suddenly, Heisuke dropped to his knees, clutching madly at his abdomen in an abrupt outburst. Heisuke! Say this with me now. For the final time, for Heisuke's root, we give him blood. I reach for the kodachi on my hip. I brace myself, swiftly sliding the sharp blade against the surface of my skin to split my wrist open. Heisuke. No words were needed. By now, Heisuke had become intimately familiar with this process, and I stuck out my bloody wrist. He hurriedly put the open wound to his drooling mouth. I felt the sting of his eager tongue, softly tracing circles in varying speeds. Somehow, I'd become in sync with the rhythm of his breathing. How the pinching sensation of blood entering his mouth made me shiver from head to toe. I've already told you. There's no need to thank me. Strangely enough, this ritual had become a source of comfort. To think that I played some role in maintaining Heisuke's sanity was enough to satisfy me. In a way, the dull ache felt by the suckle of my wound was enticing, something I began to crave myself. My blood is yours to take, whenever you need it. As long as you never tire of it, it is yours, forever. Feeling any better? Well, your skin's a lot less pale than earlier, at least. Although his face still looked as though most of the color had left it, you have no idea how happy I am to see you okay. Earlier, you were writhing in so much pain, I seriously began to think that you might not make it out of this one. Heisuke glanced at me pensively. What? It's not like that at all. Trust me, I didn't do anything special.
そんなことねえって。俺は助けられてばっかりだよ。多分羅刹になる前からずっとさ。
Heisuke plopped to sit on the floor beside me, crossing his arms over his knees as he spoke. Our shoulders nearly brushed together, which made my heart race slightly. We basked in this moment together quietly.
俺さ、ずっと考えてたんだ。人の血がなきゃ生きていけねえ化け物になってまで拾った命をどう使ってどんな風に果てるのか。
What? You're no monster. You're no monster, Heisuke. Before any of this, before the water of life, or even afterwards, you've always been Heisuke. So please, don't tear yourself down like that. I had committed myself to being frank with Heisuke. He scrunched his nose, offering no immediate response. Instead, he smiled peacefully.
お前ならきっとそう言ってくれるだろうと思ってたけどな。でも俺は化け物なんだよ。羅刹隊にいた大使たちやさっき戦った連中と全然変わらねえ。ただあいつらと違うところがたった一つだけある。
And what's that? Heisuke suddenly locked his eyes with mine. For the first time in a long while, I sensed no hint of doubt behind them, and they pierced me so intensely, it felt as though I'd been shot in the heart. What was Heisuke talking about? My heart began to race gradually, pounding inside my chest, when Heisuke whispered coolly to me.
俺のそばには千鶴、お前がいてくれるってことだ。
He flashed a wide, kind-hearted grin. His words replay endlessly in my head, bestowing a saturine? What warmth in my heart. Me? I'd suddenly become so overcome with feelings of affection that I struggled to believe this was real. It was as if I'd been dropped into a dream, almost needed to pinch myself in order to prove otherwise. So, you like having me around, Heisuke?
いや、すごく。
Do you need me?
当たり前だろ。羅刹が血を飲まなきゃ生きられねえのと同じで、俺は。
Heisuke rested his chin upon his hand, carefully thinking of what words to choose. I could practically feel his cool breath tickle my cheek when he spoke, and I took solace knowing that this moment mattered to him as much as it did to me. He looked down, clasping my hands tightly with his.
俺はもうお前がいねえと生きられねえんだ。
His hand trembled anxiously.
いつまで一緒にいられるかわからねえけど、こんな俺より未来がある他のやつのところに行く方がお前は幸せになれるかもしれねえけど、それでも俺はお前が必要だから。だからこの先も俺と一緒にいてくれ。
Ever since Heisuke drank the water of life. No, before that, Heisuke had been in constant conflict with negative thoughts festering inside of him. For so long, he had kept them buried underneath this veneer of well-meaning positivity. But the truth was, he was terrified of admitting that one day he would pass, leaving me to wander the remainder of my life without his company. Perhaps this is why he'd been so reluctant in sharing his feelings with me. Somehow, he had managed to conquer the negativity inside of him, and all of a sudden, I felt complete knowing he trusted me enough to confide in me. My name felt safe in his mouth. I'd finally heard what I had only dreamt of for years. With a strong resolution, I gripped his hand. I lost myself in the warmth, colorful sea of his gorgeous eyes, letting myself imagine that I was floating in a peaceful drift upon his irises. Heisuke's body tensed nervously in surprise, but he suddenly drew closer to my face. Words became unnecessary. When our lips met, I could feel it tingle all the way down the base of my spine. A sensation that eclipsed what mere words could convey. We accessed an unseen part of one another. Had anyone else in their entire life ever loved me as much as he did? Would my lips be able to reach his heart in the same way that his so effortlessly coaxed mine? I was the sky and he was the stars, his shining touch reaching every surface of my sun-kissed skin. Together, we were becoming one. His arms melted into the small of my back. I was inexplicably drawn to him, craving more and more of his touch with each passing moment. You can hold me closer. It's okay. I'm here. I'll always love you, Heisuke. He gazed at me on the verge of tears. We were uncertain when exactly, if at all, his mind would lose its touch with reality. For all we knew, it was tomorrow, and his body would crumble to ash like the burned tip of an incense candle. I savored his kiss, knowing it very well could have been our last ever. I became privy to the overriding fear of solitude that, for so long, had gripped Heisuke. But from this day forth, he no longer had to fear. My heart belonged to him, no matter what, and I vowed to myself that I would never leave him. The moment our lips finally parted, I held him close to my body, soaking in every bit of his warmth. I nestled into his neck, letting him know that he no longer needed to be afraid. Whatever the future had in store for us, I wanted to cherish this moment, freezing it in our minds' amber.